right, so chapter 2. Man, this is as basic as we can get. Uh, Basic computer stuff. Some of you read this and you say, man, it wasn't even worth my time. In fact, the chapter even said, you may be reading this, just skip over to the last part of the chapter because that's all you need to read. Others of you might have read this and said, man, this is this is really good stuff that I need to know. I've always wondered about this basic computer stuff. Like when I would go to computer classes. I went to a computer class one time, and a forensic computer class, and they started the class off with how to turn on your computer. Like if you're coming to it was an internet technology class, internet crimes. If you're going to an internet crimes class, don't you think you would know how to turn on the computer? But you know what? A lot of times they had to teach the lowest common denominator until they know exactly what the level of the student is, so they can start raising it. I think this is what the text was doing, was kind of teaching the lowest common denominator. Now I got some cool stuff for you next week. Actually, in just 2 days, we are going to demo an electronic police motorcycle. One of the first agencies to get it. I don't even know if we're going to buy it yet, but we're definitely going to demo it. We're going to have some fun. I already told the county sheriff's going to be with us. I told him I want to have the theme song from Chips going in the background. So I'm going to take some video of that and kind of show it to you and kind of show you some cool things about it. So, Police Technology, there's nothing better than Police Technology, a brand new piece of equipment, completely emissions free, completely gas free, goes 95 miles per hour, and can go about 130 miles per hour, 130 miles radius per charge. So something I want to show you and kind of let you see. It's kind of cool. All right, so let's talk about the text. Why do we need to know the basic of this computer stuff? Why is it important for us as investigators to know a little bit about it? And I'll tell you the reason why. When you flip the switch at your house to turn on a light, and the light doesn't come on, what is wrong? Well, we naturally assume it's the light bulb, right? Their light bulb is out. But with a computer, but it may be more than that. Maybe wiring inside of the wall. It could be a breaker that's out. There could be all kinds of things. So it's important to know a little bit about this whole basic computer information, RAM and systems and those kinds of things, because you may need to know about it as you get into investigations. Let's talk about interfaces for a moment, okay? A user interface is simply how we interact with the computer, okay? So when you say user interface, it's how that individual is interacting with that computer. It is not the same as when we say it's going to interface with the software, okay? So interface is a very tricky thing, because a lot of vendors are going to say to you, oh, hey, yeah, buy our software. It will interface with your dispatch software. And then what you find out is, yeah, okay, it will communicate with it, but you've got to write a whole bunch of programming to make it work, okay? So just because something interfaces doesn't mean that it joins together. It's actually made for that software program. It's just that it will communicate back and forth between each other. It may not do what you want it to do. So it's kind of a weird one. Peripheral devices. What is that? Well, that's beyond just, the hardware, okay? That goes beyond, it's in the hardware section, but peripheral device, if I say that, then what I'm talking about is you have your computer terminal or your computer tower. A peripheral device is a piece of hardware, but it's on the exterior. It connects to that tower. It's not part of that tower. So a peripheral device could be like a keyboard. It could be a mouse. A printer is a good example of peripheral device. Things that don't attach inside the computer but can attach outside. They're still under the hardware setting. Ports. Let's talk about ports and labeling ports. This is an important piece for us as far as investigators, especially with like computer crimes first responders. Okay, so why is it important to know about ports? Well, I'll tell you the most important thing I can tell you about ports is the labeling of ports when you go to seize a computer, because so oftentimes things that plug into those ports are specific to that port and will not operate if they're not plugged back into that port. So how I do it when I go to take a computer out for the crime lab, I label 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. So I put a 1 next to the port and a 1 on the plug, a 2 next to the port, a 2 on the plug. Some officers take pictures of the back, but anymore ports are so common, especially USB ports, that that all your plugs look the same. So I just go ahead and label them 1, 1, 2, 2. Some guys even do a diagram. That's not a bad idea. To diagram the back of that computer and show where your ports are. So those are important things to kind of keep in mind when you're doing seizures of computers. Speech recognition. This is a big deal. We have a lot of things that speak back to us, but how about when we speak to it? A lot of departments, in fact, Marietta City Police Department for a long time had for years and years and years, had someone type the police officer's reports. So they would dictate it, and then they would send it over to a clerk, and the clerk would type the report. And that clerk retired, and they didn't know what to do. So they tried all kinds of voice recognition software, and it just didn't work for them. I don't know if our appellation was a little too thick for the voice recording software, how we spoke, but we just could not get it to work. And so that's been an issue. I've heard of some agencies doing it. I've not seen voice recognition work. Let me tell you where voice recognition does work, man. And once again, some new technology. So we have MDTs in the car, mobile data terminals, okay? And so you got this MDT sitting here, and you've got license plates that you can run, and you can run that license plate of the vehicle in front of you, and it will immediately tell you if that person's got a warrant, if they have a concealed weapons permit, if they're, if they're a suspended driver. That's a big deal, right? A suspended driver, gives us probable cause to stop the car, do a complete search and tow it, So we want to know this stuff, but let me tell you what happens, okay? So a police officer gets in the car. He sees that car pass him. He turns on it. And he knows that that car has a suspended driver, but he doesn't quite, have the information yet. So he rams it up, and as he's following that car, and he's trying to get close enough to see that license plate, right? And so he's ramming up, and he's punching in those numbers, Adam, Frank, John, 162, runs right into that car, okay? I will tell you, within the first 2 months of my agency having MDTs, we had 2 accidents exactly like that. Why? Because the same reason they're outlawing texting while you're driving, but they made an exception for police officers, we're running plates as we're driving around. So some of these MDT companies have made it so that you can do voice recognition. You hit one button on your computer, voice recognition, you're driving, you're paying attention, you say, license plate check. Read the license plate. Adam, Frank, John, 1827. Goes back to the state, Ohio. Runs the plate for you and speaks back to you. Voice recognition, very important technology that we're using in law enforcement. Okay. CMOS. Complementary metal oxide semiconductor. What in the world is that? Why would we need to have information about that? Well, let me tell you what that does. Let me tell you what the CMOS. Why is that important? That is what kind of stores your information about your startup programs, okay? So when you make that change, that startup program change, something that, maybe you changed just your startup system. So your motherboard, all this other stuff is storing like all of your drives and all your programs, and got all this information. But you want your computer to start up real quick. And so that is a system that stores those startup programs so that when you hit the start button, your computer starts quicker because it's kind of stored what you want to start up first and those things that you first want to see. So that's an important system. It makes your computer run quick and start up quickly. So let's talk about memory for a minute. Long-term memory, cloud use, it's going to the cloud. The federal government is sending all their stuff to the cloud. Everything's floating around in the cloud. Great thing, could be disastrous, but in my opinion, a pretty great thing as long as you use a reputable company that has good anti-theft, anti-identity theft, firewalls, barriers, things that stop people from getting in there. My agency uses Dropbox. Let me tell you something. Dropbox is going to have a whole lot better technicians to keep people from breaking into our computer system than a little tiny 5-man police agency would. Now my college, we have a full information. We have 100 employees in the police department. We have a full information system technology group for the college. So it's a little different there. But for a normal police department of 5, 10 guys, the box is going to work just fine. You want to make sure it's HIPAA compliant. You can put your stuff on there. You can be out there in the cruiser and pull up information right from your PDA, right from your iPad or your tablet. Pull up case information right there, and you don't need to have a electronic report writing system. So I think that's important. Okay, platform. When you think platform, when someone says the word platform, I want you to think about an operating system, okay? Because that's really what a platform is, okay? It's the thing that makes all your applications kind of function and work, okay? So when you're looking to buy a computer, you're looking at the operating system, Windows 7, Windows 8, if it's going to be a Mac, that kind of thing. Will these applications work with this operating system? Very important to think about. If you go get yourself a netbook, guess what's not going to work? Your report writing program is probably not going to work on your netbook. Why? Because the operating system isn't compatible for a netbook, okay? The applications won't work. So operating system is important. But when you think an operating system, somebody throws out the word platform, you're pretty much talking about the same thing. Database. Database is very important for us. I was just using the database this week trying to find some information about a student. And what's important about the database is that it's how you pull information, okay? So it's not just a spreadsheet, but it's how the information that you're pulling from that database and how it associates throughout the system. So like when I go into our report writing system, I go to put in information from our report writing system. For instance, let's say I go to put a street address. I don't put 123 Main Street. I put 123, and then in the next tab I put Main Street, and the next tab I put Greenville, the next tab I put South Carolina. Why do I do that? Because of how the database defines. So that when I'm looking for a specific street, it's going to look for just a street name and not the address, or not the house numbers. So databases are very important to us. It's how information is divided and things like that. So with that said, I hope you have a great week. Enjoy yourself, and I will see you next week with a motorcycle demo. I'm very excited about that.